Hello, everyone. My name is Tara Gujadar, and I'm the co-founder and co-director of the Traditional Arts and Ethnology Center here in Luang Prabang, Laos. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about traditional cultural expressions, intellectual property, and the impact of AI and large language models. This is a version of a talk I first gave on the 8th of November, 2025, in Singapore as part of the ASEAN Korea Innovative Culture Forum. Thank you very much to the organizers of that forum for inviting me. So first, just to introduce myself, as I mentioned, I'm the co-founder of the Traditional Arts and Ethnology Center, but I am also a UNESCO ICH facilitator, part of their global network. And I also work in sustainable tourism and cultural heritage, mostly here in Laos and in Southeast Asia, but also in Southern Africa. And I've experienced from the past 25 years or so in this field. I run the Traditional Arts and Ethnology Center with my co-founder and co-director, Tongkun Sutivilai. We opened in 2007 as an independent social enterprise to really celebrate and highlight the cultural diversity of Laos. As such, TAC really focuses on living cultures and intangible cultural heritage and living cultural expressions. So a lot of the work we do is documenting and safeguarding those practices. So we do this in a number of different ways. We have our museum exhibitions, which are open to the public. We also have school outreach activities for young Lao people. We have a collection, continue to do research together with anthropologists and universities and independently. And we also have a large livelihoods and advocacy program. So we currently work with around 700 producers of handicrafts from around the country, primarily rural ethnic minority women. And with them, we assist them to adapt their traditional craft skills to more market-oriented products, which we then assist them to sell. And 50% of the money from those sales goes directly back to the artisans. So today, what I'm going to be focusing on is trying to tease out this question of, as AI becomes a tool of cultural production, will it create opportunities for inclusion, or will it reinforce the exclusion of the communities that sustain them? I'll be highlighting our particular experience with the Oma ethnic group of Laos, talking about misappropriation of cultural designs more broadly, the structural challenges of protection of those designs, the role of AI in all of this, and then kind of looking ahead. So first, to start about the Oma. We have been working with the Oma since around 2010, primarily on handicrafts work, but also on research into New Year's activities, music, and other kinds of topics. The Oma are a tiny ethnic group. They are less than 3,000 people worldwide, and they traditionally reside in 7 villages in the far north of Laos, in Phongsaly province, very mountainous region. And the Oma are primarily subsistence upland rice farmers, so very much tied to the land in terms of their lifestyle. Nevertheless, they are also known for their strong cultural identity and bold traditional dress. So you can see here, they use indigo dyed cotton as a base and embroider and applique that with strong geometric patterns of red and white and other colors. Traditionally, women would grow cotton alongside their rice fields, and then process it into thread, which they would then weave and dye using the indigo plant. And then after that, they would then do the applique and embroidery work, which is very painstaking, very detailed, and very precise. And generally, women will sit together when doing this work, and they do it amongst all of the other kind of household and productive activities they do. So maybe after lunch or in the afternoon light, they will sit together and work on it in the fields or around their homes, and socialize and chat at the same time. A lot of women also help each other when doing the production of their textiles. So if one woman is particularly good at cutting the applique patterns, she may do that for her friend or her family members who then do the sewing. So each textile may be actually a collaborative effort of several people or several families even, and across generations. Many times you might find women who say, oh, this shirt that I've made is using cotton that was given to me by my grandmother, and she's had that role for 20 years, and I've now used it in my clothing. You will inevitably see wherever there are women sitting around a whole horde of children as well, younger and older, those who are not in school. And so they are also observing their parents and their aunts and family members in the process of production of their traditional identity and their traditional textiles as part of this identity. So this is really a part of the transmission of their cultural heritage. So getting to the misappropriation of cultural designs. In 2019, it was discovered that the Oma ethnic group's traditional designs have been misappropriated by an Italian fashion brand. I won't tell the whole story here, but we will link this video, which we have on YouTube, in the caption of this video, so you can watch it. It's just about 3 minutes long, so you can get the background on that. But basically, what we learned from that experience is that there are a lot of challenges structurally in how capitalistic societies and economies in the global financial system work currently in order to make it difficult for traditional designs to be protected. Some of these challenges include weak IP frameworks. IP laws were really developed and built at a time in history that was really about industrialization, that was creating incentives and opportunities for investment in creativity, in innovation, and for expansion of business and profit. So this is why traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions are not well protected by these IP frameworks, because they weren't developed with traditional intergenerational knowledge in mind. There's obviously an extreme power imbalance with corporations. Companies have the resources to be able to navigate IP and legal systems in their countries, both linguistically, in terms of resources, in terms of legal understanding, formal education. Many traditional communities and indigenous people do not have these kinds of resources. Of course, there's the general exclusion of rural and ethnic people and the difficulty of their access both to information and to policy systems, or to their ability to assert their rights. And of course, there's very little recourse for communities. So even when misappropriation is identified, as in the Oma case, there are very few practical binding remedies when misappropriation is seen and quite clear cut. And then, of course, enter AI, which has been developing just exponentially, and is obviously having a huge impact on the way that humans and companies work around the world. So we see that AI could potentially mitigate some of these structural challenges around traditional cultural expressions being misappropriated or recognized, and assist, or it could magnify those challenges and those inequalities. So I'll go through these very quickly. So first, AI can be a wonderful tool to assist with documentation. AI has already been shown to do quite well in cataloging certain kinds of motifs, language, um, documents, designs, and oral traditions. So we could see that AI could assist communities to better document their traditional knowledge. It can also provide more accessible technology. We know translation apps, chatbots can really assist communities who want to access information in a language other than what they speak or that they are comfortable with. But it can also assist communities to communicate their heritage or their knowledge or their issues to the wider world. Things just generally with social media and other types of platforms, there is a much easier way for communities now to communicate with the rest of the world and for other people to access and learn about cultural heritage of these communities. And AI has a role to play in facilitating that, particularly when it comes to language and linguistics. And it can also help facilitate creativity. It is possible that AI can assist with new designs, that are rooted in traditional knowledge that's human-centered, but can use technology in a way to create brand new types of imagery, designs, products, projects. However, it can absolutely, and already has contributed to widespread appropriation. We know that AI is trained, large language models are trained through the scraping of information that is online. And there are a number of cases in court around this, specifically on copyrighted materials. So uncopyrighted materials, things like traditional cultural expressions, are very much at risk of simply being kind of vacuumed up into these models and then used to train them and to reproduce new designs that may look similar to a traditional design, but are not created by them and does not acknowledge the source or the foundation. And it's possible that designers or other creatives could use AI to tweak traditional designs just enough to make misappropriation difficult to identify. This example here in the picture is from an online retailer of textiles in India, which was seen to have used an AI-generated replica of a woodblock studio in India as well. And you can see that was very much a cut and paste kind of job with the help of AI. It can also magnify decontextualization. Cultural symbols have the risk of being reduced to just simply patterns, to aesthetics. This AI tribal art generator is an actual site where someone who wants to create a pattern for a bedroom wall, for a tattoo, for a t-shirt, can simply generate designs that look tribal, but are not actually rooted in any one community, and thus does not need to seek their consent, nor does it have any acknowledgement of the meaning or symbolism behind those designs. So further decontextualization can be possible and is very much the case with AI. And on the other hand, you also have the potential for minority traditions to be completely erased or left out because they are not used in the data sets that are used to train AI models. So we know that there's already, I read somewhere, over 40% of the information, somewhere else it said over 70% of some of the information that's been used to train some of the most popular large language models is in English. So even huge languages like Spanish, like Hindi, like Mandarin, not to mention more smaller indigenous languages, none of that information is not well represented in AI data sets and thus is just not part of their outputs. And as the world starts to rely more and more on the outputs of AI, the more and more that information will recede in recognition. So I think it's quite safe to say that without safeguards, AI will absolutely accelerate existing power imbalances. So what can we do about that? I think we see that structural barriers currently marginalize communities, and AI risks accelerating misappropriation and widening this divide between communities and corporations and industrialized societies. And that communities must be seen as creators and partners worthy of investment, not just as resources for extraction of information and data. And thus, inclusive frameworks and ensuring that inclusive frameworks are mainstreamed is really essential right now. So some suggestions to finish up. These are very broad and not necessarily focused on any one party, but particularly on governments, I would say, but then also on large organizations who may be working in this field and on businesses themselves, is that we can really compel and support businesses to adjust how they design and produce. So state parties in particular can compel businesses to work together with and to acknowledge and partner with traditional communities, local communities, if they are designing using that type of knowledge in their work. And that, of course, includes using free, prior, and informed consent. So whenever this kind of information is used or there's a collaboration, there should be free, prior, informed, and sustained consent from communities. Governments can also mandate models for benefit sharing. So rather than just focusing on profit maximization, compelling businesses to share benefits from designs, developments that are based on traditional knowledge is essential. And mainstreaming the use of traditional knowledge labels or access protocols. So whenever using this kind of knowledge, understanding the protocols of what can be shared, what can be used commercially, what is restricted, and what is sacred is really essential. And that requires having the communities at the table to determine that. It's also important to adapt IP systems to recognize collective knowledge. This is a very slow process, which I know is in process, but needs to continue being plugged away at. And finally, it's important that AI, as it becomes more and more widespread, that AI tools are co-created with communities themselves actively and directly. I look forward to any of your thoughts. Please feel free to share them in the comments or to get in touch with us. And you can learn more about our work online. Thank you very much.